If you've ever seen Limitless, the movie starring Bradley Cooper, you've probably wanted to achieve some of the effects the drug NZT causes to him in the movie. Some of them would being increased concentration, being able to retrieve memory from specific points of your life, being able to think smarter and think harder. But what a lot of people don't realize is actually like a lot of these things you can achieve now with drugs and different components in real life now. First of all, I'm not a doctor. Nothing I say I'm recommending you do. I'm just trying to share some knowledge. But we first, when we're looking at what are called nootropics, memory and brain enhancing drugs, you first have to look at the brain itself and the neuron. The neuron sends all information throughout the brain, sends signals that make us who we are. A neuron is made out of the soma, which is the body, and then on the soma you have the axons, which send out the signals, and then to the dendrites, which receive the signals. And then between the synapses you have neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals that kind of create the crossover and allow the signals to travel throughout the brain. And as there are certain components that act as neurotransmitters and can allow us to enhance certain parts of the functionality of our brain. One of them being caffeine, which is something that most Americans drink every day. And caffeine, it's a wakefulness agent, and how it provides wakefulness is it binds to adenosine in the brain. Adenosine being a drug or a neurotransmitter that causes tiredness, and caffeine actually acts as an agonist to the drug and binds to the receptors, preventing it from accruing and therefore preventing you from achieving a sleep. And it sort of acts as fear and cortisol in a sense, they having almost being referred to as a cup of fear, cup of coffee, because they provide very similar effects in the brain of increasing your blood pressure, increasing stress, increasing energy outputs, similar to what cortisol would do. But in addition to the wakefulness, there's also several cons, which are the jitteriness that comes from it, the excess of energy. You lose creativity, because creativity is generally found in the parasympathetic part of our brain. When we're calm, that's when the creative moments come to us. And when you are jittery and your brain is kind of firing off a little bit faster than it should be, you do notice a lack of creativity. You might have more energy, but you'll be less creative and theoretically less intelligent too, because you'll be moving all over the place. You won't have time to really sit down and function and process the information. So what caffeine also does is why it acts as sort of a nootropic. It releases acetylcholine. I actually had to look up how that's pronounced, and it helps with short-term memory and learning. It's a very prominent neurotransmitter that we see through a lot of the nootropic drugs. But a really common way that you can kind of curb the negative side effects of caffeine, being the jitteriness, would be combining with something called L-theanine, also called sun-theanine, which is in several different nootropics. It's a very basic nootropic stack, and from my knowledge, you should combine them at a 3-to-1 ratio. So for every 3 grams or 3 milligrams of caffeine, there should be 1 milligram of L-theanine. But what L-theanine does, it's actually found in green tea. It helps calm you down and prevent the jitteriness from kind of taking control of you, which allows the acetylcholine to really work its magic with and you have that the wakeful energy without the jitteriness, and you have the focusness aspect of the caffeine and the acetylcholine. So when also talking about nootropics, there are the more powerful ones, the higher end ones, and probably the most widespread, a little bit less widespread than caffeine, but one of the most effective nootropics is something called modafinil, which is a uroic, and it's similar to modafinil, which is a kind of like an enhanced version of modafinil. It's a newer version of modafinil, but what these drugs actually are, they're sleep apnea treatment drugs. And so I've heard the symptoms, and not symptoms, but the effects of these drugs being similar to like a very clean caffeine without the jitteriness. But what you see is a lot of these silicon 1%ers, they actually take advantage of modafinil. And when you are on modafinil, you have a very clean source of energy, less so than it's almost a different type of energy. It would really act differently than caffeine in a sense, because you don't have the jitters. But what modafinil actually does is you can, the side effects to my knowledge range from anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. So it's quite a lot longer than caffeine, which has a half-life of 6 hours before it's out of your system, and the symptoms and the effects are kind of unseen. But modafinil, people actually are able to work on it, stay up whole nights, take it, sleep 2 hours, and they're able to wake up fully refreshed in the morning, which is a very large benefit to people who do have sleep apnea and do have sleep disorders. Allows them to get a lot more work done. But silicon 1%ers use these drugs to accomplish a lot more work, and it's very widespread, and you can It is a regulated drug, which means it is prescription only, so it is illegal having it, but it's on the very edge of being regulated and non-regulated. So it is purchasable online. I would recommend against that because we don't know the long-term effects of this. But looking at it on paper, the effects are actually less severe than caffeine in a sense. Caffeine, there's a myriad of health problems that exist when you do have it. Increased blood pressure, increase of heart problems and failure, increased heart attack, increased stress, increased kind of demand on the body. But with modafinil, there's actually very few kind of negative side effects that you would experience with it, but I would recommend being cautious, and I wouldn't recommend doing anything illegal because that's bad. But it's a very prominent example of what a really high quality nootropic and could really do to you. And I think it's one of the best examples when comparing to the NZT drug to drugs that we have nowadays. So it probably makes the best comparison over. But in addition to modafinil and caffeine, there actually are other ones too. There's a Baca-Menari, that I can never pronounce it right, but it's also another one. It produces kind of just helps you remember things a little bit better, helps you bring stuff to your memory a little bit quicker, retrieve information a little bit easier. Another one that actually many bodybuilders use, creatine monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate is very beneficial in producing adenosine triphosphate, which is a very basic form of energy that our muscles use. It's synthesized from glucose in our body. They're very simple sugar. It allows our muscles to fire, and what our body uses for energy. But our brain also uses ATP for energy as well. So taking creatine monohydrate allows your body to produce more of it, and theoretically your brain is able to have more energy to fire off continually without getting tired. You'll be more a little bit more wakefulness. You'll be able to use more brain power in a sense, which could have a lot of benefits as well. Again, creatine is a very well researched ingredient and has a lot of benefits, but you should be aware there are possible side effects, but from what I've seen, it's quite safe. It's one of the safest supplements out there. In addition to creatine, caffeine, and heroics, there's also racetams. And there are within racetams there's piracetams, and what piracetams actually do is they activate glutamate receptors, which is a neurotransmitter that kind of promotes remembering, memory, facilitates learning, and it has a very close structure to Adderall. Piracetams are very similar chemically, and what it also does, similar to caffeine, is it modulates acetylcholine, producing better remembering and short-term memory and learning effect. But in short, you can use certain compounds of these to be able to create stacks. I actually have one sitting on my bookshelf that I've used very sparingly. I wouldn't recommend it purely for the fact that a lot of them come underdosed and they are expensive. But if you do research, you are able to find a really good nootropic stack that actually could produce a lot of benefits for yourself. I'd actually recommend creating your own find out what works for you, and then not synthesize the products yourself, but create it and mix them yourself to find the best results. Again, there are dangerous side effects if you are using prescription drugs and even caffeine. I'd also recommend not mixing the prescription drugs together, the ones that do produce higher memory and recall, because they can be very detrimental to one's health, and you could honestly overdose from it, which is also a negative side effect. But in short, they do provide a lot of benefits, although not as potent as the NZT in Limitless movie. There are a lot of benefits you can derive from using different nootropics. You got to be very safe when researching these, though. I would recommend finding out what works for you, doing a lot of research on the long-term and short-term effects of it, and then recording your how you feel when you're on it and the output of work that you're able to use, and then you're able to find the best compounds that you can use to enhance your work life, your just personal life, and pretty much anything. But always be safe. I also recommend not doing it every day because you do grow more not dependent, but your body kind of grows used to it and the effects are less on your brain. So space them out, be safe. But other than that, I hope this video helped explain to you guys nootropics a little bit more. Other than that, have a nice day. Peace.